Well,
on the-
this was about an inch away from the stone,
Right.
but I'm having it put on the base now.
Right, yeah, I mean, that's something we should probably look at in the ordinance, that you can fix the base. And it's out of the grass, and I think we need to make it where the city ordinance reads that anytime you put a headstone out there, it has to have a ribbon with it that connects to the next ribbon that connects. So like if you had, if this is yours and this one's yours and this one's yours, you have to pour up to the next guy's lot, and then you have a contiguous
Oh, yeah.
ribbon. That way, from here on out.
So
you don't have to
the
worry
one I
about
had,
that stuff that we spent on
I just got a copy of mine.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna cost me about $300.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Stone.
Is it really? Who you using?
You gotta, yeah.
I called 3 different companies.
Because my dad has an army one. Here in Muscuda, I had to take mine home from Muscuda because they just took it out.
So this is from World War One.
You know what?
Yeah, no, my dad's had to take home. And they said, if I put it back out there the second time, they throw it away. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm not big happy about it.
I'm saying,
Don't take them all.
except Trenton only has shepherd hooks, so I'm 13. So I had some stuff in my office.
I hadn't heard.
Filing everybody around so that they don't change the cemetery. That way, if you have left one control, you have left one level. You're gonna be somewhat close and not laid out. And then we're gonna redo that board and have it. Once we complete it, big ball ladder.
Hey, Charlie,
So, I.
You both.
No, let me take one.
I said you both represent Ward two.
So I went by.
That's all.
hey, Charlie,
Yeah.
you got a minute?
They changed from
Yeah.
like. Maybe you're not really. Maybe it's.
You want me, this criminal yourself? or- Oh, yes, they don't. Wow.
So.
Where is the island?
On this thing?
Start pulling pictures.
This is the majority now, the sidewalks out here. Yes.
This is fishy.
Yeah, that's different.
I mean, you can access the alley from this way. It's one way.
Yeah. It's not one way.
So-
There's a side eye. There's a side out there.
This is the part. Those part you give us.
Do this.
And if they didn't want to do these-
No.
But the alley- That's north.
Yeah, is this the street?
Turn over to Charlie.
What's the name of that street?
I'm not sure what it is.
I don't know either.
I'm not sure what that first one is.
If this is where the alley is over here.
Every 5 years. Already, so.
I'm picking.
Huh?
I'm picking.
That's better than some.
I put it in there. and forgot to call you. It's just a regular.
Really lost. There you go. That debatable or you good?
I left my agenda.
Oh, you won't, George, I'm sorry.
So, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you?
I left my agenda out in the car.
You want? You need going on.
Well, I mean, I had some other stuff too on it.
Then you got.
But yeah, I'll take one if you got one.
I said, well, we're going to have to. She would just.
What time does it say up there on the clock?
It's almost time.
And.
That's what I thought. I was gonna run my car and get it.
I would imagine.
He's you know, a lot of probably him too.
And.
Just doesn't care. Well, so she gave him a study sheet. Work on it.
I said, how would you?
Took the test. We got an email.
She said.
Goes to show you have to,
I said,
you
again.
know, every kid's different. You have to deal with it differently. No,
And I said.
they don't care.
Jim has. Remain, don't. Sorry.
I had that and some other one papers I wanted to bring, and I left them on the car.
I made a copy of this. It's a copy of mine. I scribbled it. I said nobody had to. And the guy.
Thank you, Brian. After all the work I did to do it, and then I left them on the car.
Really? What's that? I'll show you when they're at. So I went out there and
Okay.
the right one, then I looked at the right two pictures. That's what I was doing. Same thing, I was-
So Friday,
Yeah.
Friday.
Right. And that's why I told you, yeah, I'm gonna get my myself.
Okay, six. It is 6:30.
Well.
It's 6:30. Call to order the March 17th. Lebanon City Council Committees meeting. Roll call would be Washington,
Here.
Whitty,
Here.
Stevenson, Here. Trinka,
Here.
Bennett,
Here.
Farrell, here, Cornish, and Belkey are not here. Okay, audience participation. If you have anything that you want to talk about, you have 5 minutes. Please come up to the gate and state your name before your topic. Okay, nobody's coming up. Alderperson, any alderperson have anything? Go ahead, Ms. Washington.
Yeah, last week the mayor had asked me to look in the summer program.
Okay.
And I called intergovernmental grants. They do not have a summer program anymore, but they do have a program for high school seniors. It's for high school seniors to age 24. Must have finished must be in school or finish school. And after you have finished school, you can continue your education and they will help you with grants and scholarships. They also have a program for adults. If anybody is interested, contact me and I will give you the point of contact.
Thank you. Anybody?
I got one more. thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Um,
gonna bring your phone.
some time ago, we talked about someone occupying Ron. Do you know what happened to that?
I have no idea. I know that all I know is what you know, what was brought up in the meeting. That there was a person, there was somebody or an organization, something, was looking at Ron's and wanted to perhaps reopen Ron's, whether it be Ron's or another name. What I heard also from the same source is that that individual may not qualify for a liquor license. That's all I know. Anybody know anything different? Okay, thank you. There's no other person, we'll go on. Finance Committee,
I have nothing tonight.
all right, thank you.
Can we, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. Are we gonna huddle one of these days and talk about the, budget and whatnot?
Can be done in Finance Committee, first of all. The next Finance Committee meeting would be April 7th, and that's gonna be cutting it close.
And when's it supposed to be in?
It has to be turned in by April 30th.
And what prevents us from having a, meeting to talk about it?
Special meeting?
Yeah.
Just have to be requested and posted. We have to figure a time, a day at a time, and post it.
Okay, how much notice?
It's 48 hours.
Okay.
Posting it is 48 hours.
All right. I think we ought to have something.
Okay.
So we can arrange that.
We could discuss, it's not on the agenda, so we could discuss it. But at next week's council meeting, it can be brought up as a motion to do that, and then it's done. If the council votes for the special meeting, does not have to be on a Monday night, because all of our Monday nights are taken, unless we wanted to do it on, the fifth Monday of this month, which is the 31st.
Well, it seems to me like we ought to have something.
Right, because but we were told in that email that we have about $178,000, something like that, deficit in the proposed budget. We have to find that $178,000 either as revenue or cutting expenses.
Right.
George, should answer.
Sharon?
Sorry to interrupt, but everybody just got their budget yesterday. Y'all have to go through it and everything. There's a schedule as to what dates, what's happening. So no need to push that through. Look at the budget and see. So that's what you need to do.
Right.
Who wrote that up?
Who
Oh, the
wrote
treasurer.
what?
The
Who
treasurer,
wrote what up?
the treasurer,
The schedule.
Luann and the treasurer worked on that, yes.
all right.
Larry sent it to us.
Did he send it to us as well?
I'm sorry.
Did he send it to us as well?
Okay,
But I didn't get a copy and I don't know what
Oh, you
changes they
didn't?
made. No, neither did
I'll
Coach.
send you a copy.
Neither did Coach.
Okay, I'll send you a copy of it.
See what changes they made.
Okay. So that's what it is, Pat. There's a whole schedule and dates of what's happening when. It's nothing we can rush into. It won't go until the 30th of April. It'll be done before then.
okay, as long as we have some kind of get together that, we
It'll
can
be
talk,
talked about next Monday night.
all right? Gonna get in, okay,
Probably be a weekly topic on the
Right.
committee and the council meeting for the next 4 weeks.
okay.
Anything else for finance? Okay, water and sewer, Pat?
Penny, you wanna say something about some of the progress that, we're making and, in the light of the,
Department of Labor inspection. That was what we
yeah,
talked about.
yeah.
So
That-
we got no report from the Department of Labor. I don't know if
No.
Carrie has gotten anything yet either, but there were some suggestions made at that inspection. I was not at the inspection, but the guys took some notes and I have sent the progress of the things that we've done to move forward with what was suggested that day. And I've sent that to Mr. Stevenson and to Sherry. If anybody else would like that, I could forward it on to them. There's nothing that's documented right now for us to do. It's just suggestions that were made, so I thought we would jump ahead and try to get some things done that they had suggested at the time. Some in-person training they wanted, and just some paperwork things that they didn't like the way it was. They wanted their way, and so we just, I should say I redid with their paperwork, so
Yeah,
those things are documented on a spreadsheet, and I've sent that to the mayor and to Mr. Stevenson, and like I said, if everybody else would like that, I can forward it. But like I said, there was no written documentation as to any violations as of yet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Penny, you gonna say anything about those little deduct meters?
I was
That's gonna
thinking,
come.
I think that's going to be, Mr. Wilkin.
Yeah,
Talk to that.
Bill?
Yeah.
Would you like to take the floor?
Sure.
Tell everybody who you are?
Sure. Oh, you don't know, I'm the guy that always wears the red shirt. I'm Bill from the Ace Hardware.
I also live in town, I've been here like 17 years, so I brought an example of something I want to talk to you guys about, and I don't know how good your printouts were that were included with the packet, so I brought new copies. So the color copies, so you'd have them, try to bring some for the whole crowd, but I'll pass them around. So I'm gonna go over what's called a deduct meter, that a lot of other communities in the area use, and the purpose behind this meter, I'm gonna go over how it's designed, the purpose for it. I'll also go through the safety and security on it as well, so the fraud prevention that's built into these things as well. So let me kind of go through all of it. I'll give actually, yours next year.
I have
You got one?
one,
You
yeah.
got one? So basically what the purpose of a deduct meter is, to prevent the overbilling of the sewer fees on an individual's water bill. So whether you understand or not, I'll explain it again. So you all know that when we consume water in town, water is obviously run through your water meter attached to everyone's house, apartment, so forth. That water is then billed at the water rate. It is immediately assumed that all the water that runs into your house must be going down your sewer system. So that equal amount of water going in must be going in the sewer. So the sewer bill is calculated based upon that same volume of water. Well, in some neighborhoods, some homes, depending on what you do with your water, it doesn't go into the sewer system. You know, for me, we water a lot of plants at our house, build a swimming pool, you know, different things like that. We wash our cars. All that water is consumed, but it doesn't go through the sewer system. So what a lot of other communities, and I've included the ordinances for the other communities in the area, Muscuda, Belleville, I believe O'Fallon does it, several of them do, is they offer the residents the ability to hook up something called a deduction meter onto their garden hoses. Now, this is different than a meter that you would put in for the sprinkling of your lawn. So if you had a permanently installed sprinkler system in your lawn, then you would have a separate tap done, have a separate meter installed to measure that water. That's an expense you would go through if you did a commercial installation or a very large residential installation. We're not talking about that. We're talking about something that's portable, that the average person, homeowner, or business would use just simply at their garden hoses to track the amount of water they're consuming. So this is an example of one that's been in use for quite a while. I'll pass that around. So this is the same commercial deduction meter setup that you would have on your water today. Basically, that is a standard water meter. It's a secured meter that is used commercially. It's actually probably the same meter that anyone building a home or putting in new water service in town would be using. What happens with this meter is though, there are adapters placed onto the commercial meter that allows for garden hose connection and backflow prevention. So in my scenario, in my house, I would go outside where I'm washing my car. I have a primary garden hose at my store in Muscuda. We actually have a garden hose on a cart. We just took this, we bolted it to the garden hose. So as we roll it around, we hook it up to every garden hose that we connect to. It tracks all the water that we use either at home or water that is used in our business. So the typical scenario is that a person in town would come to the city. They would sign up for the program. This is a no cost to the city whatsoever from the purchase of the meter because the consumers have to buy the meters. So the average cost of that meter right now, the city could purchase them. I listed all the vendors on this and I can be happy to help you guys set up the accounts for the purchase of them. They typically charge around $100 a city. So, you know, Joe Blow comes into town, hey, I want to get one of these things. They come to the counter at the beginning of the season. They, out of their own pocket, purchase a meter to track their water. The city will then record that they have a meter, the starting amount of gallons that's on that meter, and they would use it throughout the year. Once a year, then that person would come back, typically in October timeframe, when the kind of the season's over, you're really not using a lot more water. They would either bring back the meter. Some towns actually allow them to take a picture of the meter and email it into the water department, so they have to stop by. And then the person who's doing the water billing would do a single one-time adjustment for the amount of gallons consumed that did not go into the sewer system and provide them a credit. So pretty straightforward. It's a one-time billing. It doesn't create a tremendous amount of paperwork. The person who wants to use this is going to pay all the costs of putting this in, purchasing it, maintaining it, and bringing it back. In the ordinances that I recommended, it also does clearly state that the person is buying it. They have to own it, they're responsible for it, the city's not liable for damages to it, because they just basically bought a device. Right, and then they get to monitor it, use it once a year. Now, a couple of things from the safety standpoint and from a security standpoint that everyone always asks, well, how can you could use it to cheat the system, right? How could you do that? So the commercial meter that I'm showing you there that most towns use is tamper-proof. So anyone who would bring a meter in and look at it, you could tell immediately that it had been opened and messed with and the dials have been turned in some way because it's a tamper-resistant meter, and you'd know right away, right? And in other towns, what they'll also do is to assure that someone isn't, using it incorrectly, there's also recommendations in the ordinances that the amount of the credit that they request is limited to a maximum of a percentage of the amount that they had purchased. So in some cities, they offer only maybe a 10 or a 20% maximum credit. So you couldn't use it, even if you found a way to hook it up, you could never get all of your water bill back because there's a max amount of credit all available. Now, I understand that this is not something that every single person in the community would want to use. However, most folks in town, there's a lot of gardens in the community, a lot of people wash their cars, some commercial businesses that do washing, those kind of things. They would get a benefit out of this. Yes, $100 up front could be a little expensive for some, but it's worth it if you consume a lot of water. The homeowner is just going to do the math. Hey, I'm going to spend $100. I got one because, $23 a year, the thing lasts, and that thing probably has been around 6 or 8 years. Over time, it pays for itself, and it's really no cost to the city. Some of the communities have also had a little concern that, well, hey, this might reduce some of the revenue that comes for the sewer department to offset their costs. And there will be a small revenue change. I don't think you're going to see people driving down the road and a run on meters to try to get that done. There will be a small change in the amount of revenue, and after that's been run a year, then the council will have the ability to see, okay, here's a minor change. We'll need to readjust our rates to compensate because I'm sure all that revenue is being used and targeted to pay bonds and different things like that. So you'll have an opportunity in a year to make whatever slight adjustment you would need. Most of the towns that I've talked to, they actually see an increase in water usage because now people feel that they're not being billed so heavily for the amount of sewer. So their water usage actually increases slightly as well. So the offset can be, a small amount. But that can all be dealt with the following year when you do your rate adjustments to recalculate any minor revenue changes that would happen from the sewer side, increase in water, reduction in sewer. So it's a balanced act. Most importantly, it levels the playing field for everyone. No one's being overcharged anymore. If they choose to purchase the system, they don't get overcharged for that. It's no cost to the city as far as administration. Yeah, there'll be some paperwork and some time consumed, but the city won't be purchasing these. The residents need to make the purchase and make the investment to do it. We're just asking the city to facilitate these water meters, keep them in stock, sell them. You guys want to sell them and make money? You can do that. You can sell them for a profit.
Not to interrupt you, but is you, okay, I thought something was wrong with you, ma'am, I'm sorry. Like your head was down for so long, I thought something was wrong, I was just making sure you were okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but she scared me for a second.
And some cities do charge, a $10 or $20 administration fee on their water bill when they're running that too, just to offset any expenses. In the ordinances, there's also a recommendation, if someone who doesn't want to bring it in, you could also charge a fee. Some towns charge a $25 fee to actually have someone come out and read the meter for them. So we want to make sure we provide all the residents in town, either bring it in, take a picture. We can send somebody to the city out for a fee to read it for you. All those options are built into the ordinances. Okay. So that's my nutshell of how a meter works and why we would want to use it and how it doesn't cost any money to anybody except the person who actually wants it. So can I answer any questions? And did I talk too fast?
So how do you inform everybody about the device?
Usually what they would do is once it's available, then it would either go in the water meter statement. So most towns would actually just include it in the email that goes out with the bills. I'm sure we could put it on Facebook and everyone would know in about 30 seconds. And that would be done too. So, but usually they put it in the water bills, if they mail a bill or in the email. So.
Is it just for residents? I mean, the car wash couldn't get one, right?
No, because they are, well, I mean, they'd have to hook up to a garden hose. So right, these have garden hose connections on them. So yeah, it wouldn't be for like putting into a commercial building. Like I would buy one because I would use one when I water my plants at the store, for example. And I use one when I fill my pool or at home. So I would want one. But commercial business, unless they're buying 4 of them to put them on garden hoses, it would be kind of infeasible to use, so yeah.
Is there a basic usage level that it would be an advantage for a homeowner? I mean, what level would I have to be at, gallons in terms?
You know, I don't know what the rates are here in town to tell you when it makes sense. If you're gonna spend $100 and you did over 5 years, that's $20 a month. I don't know how many gallons of water, you just do the math to consume the number of gallons and look at your bill. I mean, the average person who's watering their yard and running a garden every year probably would want one. I mean, it's $20 goes a long way. So that's not as much water as you think, right? So, and I look at it as a 5-year, 10-year investment for myself. So, but anybody who has a pool, washes their car all the time, those kind of things, they would probably see it as an advantage too, so.
Pool, when I do start up on my above ground pool every year, I have about $150 increase in my water bill. And that's the one time I would want to use it.
Right, so 75 of that would be saved on the once a year if you're doing a big pool, right? Right, yeah.
Hey, George, I'm on that record. Miss Washington needs to leave. Okay, excuse.
Any other questions?
Are you okay? Wait, you need to ride me up? Do you need help, like going home? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got a question over here, I think?
Question, okay. I get this thing, I use for whatever, I don't need it anymore, can I sell it to somebody else?
That'd be up to the city. They would have to reassign because every meter is uniquely numbered, so you probably could bring it in and say, hey, I'm selling my meter to this person, please take the meter number at the end of the season and assign it to this next person. I don't see why they wouldn't do a meter transfer of some
That's a
kind.
question, I mean.
Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't do that. It would work, yeah.
Or if I moved.
Yeah, because they're tracking it on an annual basis, so once a year at the end of the season, I don't see why you couldn't do that. Yeah.
That was my question, is like, are they interchanged? I don't live out here, but for the town that I do live in, I just have a question. Are they like interchangeable? Like, say I live in New Dayton now and they have them. And I move to Lebanon, do I just take it with me?
I know people who actually live in Belleville and they'll move to Muscuda or they'll move to O'Fallon. And typically they do because this particular meter is like a commercial lock meter, so they'll accept it. But most towns, and this is one thing you want to make sure you don't do, is you really don't want to allow the residents to provide their own meters because there's no tracking on it and there's no way to assure that that hasn't been tampered with. Because Muscuda had this problem years back when they started their program. They wrote their ordinances that person could obtain their own meter, but it wasn't specifically written which meter. So people were just buying random meters off of the internet and they weren't tamper proof. And they had some minor issues with questionable meter usage. So that's when and Belleville did the same thing. They rolled over to a tamper proof commercial meter that had to be purchased from the city or be an approved model that the city had already recommended. So, yeah. So you don't want to get into letting people go out and buy any one they want. The city needs to control that because it is a credit, right? So.
No, is the city gonna be able to buy them for like $50 and then sell them to the public for?
No, they typically run, I mean, I think the wholesale price, when I looked at it back last fall, I mean, they wholesale out at $80 to $90. Actually, hang on. The quote we got from the last guy, with all the adapters and connectors and everything, they are actually $124 wholesale. So typically the cities buy them and pass them through.
Well, we were asking questions like I live out here.
I'm sure that's gone up again. There's a lot of brass in there, so I'm sure it's gone up again. So, yeah, so you're looking at $125 to get involved in it. So it's not for everybody, but if someone who's, someone using a lot of water, it makes a lot of sense. So. Yeah. Anybody else?
Any other thing? Huh? Speak now or ever hold.
All right, so in the back, I don't know where this goes next. I'm assuming it goes to ordinances. So I included a recommended ordinance copied over from the two communities of Muscuda and Belleville and what language they have. And I highlighted some of what I thought was questionable. You'll see a couple of yellow highlights of things whether you would want to include those or not. They're sort of couple overbearing comments in there. So you might want to hopefully narrow that down a little bit when you adopt it. All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you for coming in, Bill.
I need that meter back, that's not mine.
I took it off the neighbors.
There you go. Close, actually, yeah.
Okay, question, Pat, is, does this go to the council next week for a decision, or you wanna wait till the next committee meeting to discuss it and come up with a recommendation, or do we wanna make a recommendation tonight?
Well, I think we can make a resolution now,
Or make a recommendation,
recommendation.
and then have your city attorney write up an ordinance.
Yeah, I don't, you know. Do you have any idea? Will it upset the apple cart over here? And, you know, and things like that. So I don't know whether we need to talk about it a little bit more to figure it out.
Well, let's put it on next week's, my suggestion is put it on next week's council meeting for discussion only. And then in 4 weeks, it would make a decision, because that would give us a committee meeting in between to come up with some specific language that we may want in the ordinance. It's nice that we have sample ordinance. That's, I mean, we just kind of plagiarize on a regular basis among the communities and copy each other's ordinances and just adjust the language to our particular needs. This is something, to be very frank, I've been recommending for 5 years. And even before I was on the council, I brought it up to the council. And at that time, the argument from the council, remember, a couple of council members was, oh, that's a tap-in, and we have to charge $2,000 to do a tap-in. And that's something that you can put on the hose bib outside yourself. So the city doesn't need to charge a $2,000 tap-in fee.
Well, if rather than trying to string this thing out and everything else, do we do something next week?
We can, it's up to the rest of you speak up.
You just put on there for discussion next week, then, because I'm sure Penny has some pros and cons about the whole situation.
And she does. I know that.
Yeah. All right, sounds good.
So we'll put it on discussion item next week.
All right.
Now let Luann know.
George, can you have a draft ordinance created as well, just so it has something to talk about?
Sure. We can get a draft.
We need a draft ordinance to put it on the agenda as a draft ordinance, and then it takes 2 readings, so it would be that would be 2 discussion times to review the ordinance. Penny or anyone else could make any comments at the city council meeting if they were for or against it, and then the second meeting, it would then be passed or failed, so. In order to have a real formal discussion, you have to have an ordinance drafted, started.
Yeah.
If not, it's a discussion forever, so.
Okay,
You wanna talk to Mike about that, or you want me to call Mike?
no, you can call him, I don't want to talk to him.
I'll talk to Mike, I'll I'll send him the sample ordinances.
Yeah, okay,
I'm sure he has other sources that get them.
yeah,
as well.
so we can get that on
Right,
the agenda next week.
a question I would ask is, do we wanna do a surcharge? A minor charge to get it on the books for each person? I'm not seeing we're gonna be doing 1,000 of these, or it might be 100, 150 in the city. For people who are avid gardeners or who have pools, would probably be the people who would use these. Or somebody who washes their car almost every day, might be somebody who would use
Yeah.
these. That's my guess,
Yeah,
based
that's
upon what I
fine,
read about them.
that's fine, let's go ahead and move on and.
Okay. Talk to Michael, take the best of these.
Okay. Good.
All right. Anything else for water and sewer? Personnel, anything tonight?
Not tonight. Don't have anything for this evening at all.
Okay. The next meeting, that personnel will be will be in April. So we'll need to have soon advertising for city treasurer. That position needs to be advertised. So I would suggest we get it on the agendas for the next couple of weeks to get that done. Because we'll have to, it will take at least 6 to 8 weeks to advertise, to put together the description, put together the ads, put the ads in the paper, advertise it, give us adequate time for applications to come in. Reviewing the applications, the next mayor will be the person that actually hires them, but reviewing those applications and then making a recommendation to the council so that we have somebody coming on board right at the 1st of May. Because the target is that person has to be hired before May the 1st, or should be hired before May the 1st. Oh,
And if anybody's out there wants to know, the salary is gonna be $6,500.
yeah, $6,500. And there is a description, responsible for doing
That's
some
annual.
budget items. Responsible for overseeing checking accounts.
That's annual, correct?
That's an annual. 65 annual. So we're not looking, and there'll probably be a qualification. Because it's an employee, there will be some qualifications in their job description, I suspect,
Yeah, the $6,500 is based on qualification.
right? Okay, anything else for personnel?
Nothing.
Health and safety, she left. So right now, I don't know of anything for health and safety. Anybody know of anything for health and safety?
I saw something on Facebook today, I think it was today, that people, when we had that cool spell or whatever things, that people were concerned about, warming and cooling stations once again. I think Linda was looking into that, so I don't know if she did
Yeah,
that.
because we'll be getting into hot weather in a few months, we need to be prepared for that. And so we need cooling stations and then warming stations for here. That's been a discussion, ongoing discussion now for about 2 years.
Can I speak to something on that?
Sure.
The Northtown station has been out since Friday. Power has been out there. Those were a lot of the people who were commenting on Facebook. Is there a possibility that the city could look to Ameren and say, hey, is there a way to serve the power to that station that's part of Lebanon? The same way as the rest of the city is fed, because they look at it as, they're the only ones fed from the Troy area back to Lebanon. I mean, I've been out there since Friday pumping, so I get it. I get their frustration. It happens quite often in that area, because they're on a different grid than the rest of Lebanon. So they'll look and see the rest of Lebanon has power, but they don't. So maybe it's something that we could talk to. I can call there if you want and just ask, is there a way to possibly serve this area off of the same grid as the rest of Lebanon?
Is there water sewer plant on that grid?
No, I'm talking about, there's a lift station at
Okay.
Northtown.
All right,
So it is one lift station, but that lift station has been out of power as well since Friday, so.
it would be appropriate for you to contact them because it affects the water, the sewage for the.
I don't mind contacting them. I just want, it seems like an appropriate measure to take at this point. Those people have dealt with this as I have with that station for quite some time.
It's better to go in at a lower level of administration. And if there's no satisfaction, then bump it up to the mayor.
So you're taking that on then, Penny?
I'll call and see what I can find out.
Hey, Penny, why don't you talk to Bobby Davis?
I can absolutely do that.
There you go.
They're starting to work on that, right? They're redoing all the power down the entire road, aren't they?
I don't know about that, but
They have a new
he's a supervisor, so.
substation, but I don't know that
They're
includes
supposed to backfeed that.
includes the same thing, so it would be worth talking to them and
Right.
making sure at least then something could go out to those people saying,
Right.
hey, there is a plan to, at some point, refeed you the same way as everyone else.
Sure.
Since we don't have our person who used to. back-
Bobby, will get it done.
At least we'll have answers. Anything else on health and safety? Okay, we have 4 items of unfinished business. I don't know anything about them, so who has the update on the renaming of True Value Drive?
Luann called to try and find out exactly, she talked to 911 and they sent her to somewhere else, so she's progressing, it's just a step-by-step
Right. We had that
requirement.
same issue when we did the other renaming down the street. Forget which one. We renamed the street. It took us a long time to get it done.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, Tony Bow Drive.
that was probably a 4-letter word I just said.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, so she did start it. I don't believe she was here for that renaming, so that's why she's.
Probably, yeah.
redoing.
She wasn't. That came before her.
Yes. So she's working on it.
I can tell you, I looked into it a little bit. Basically, the city has to approve it and then it goes to mapping and planning at the county. And then mapping and planning at the county basically makes the final changes to the maps, at the county level, and that gets disseminated out, is my understanding.
We have, you guys, they approved it.
Yeah, so
Yeah, we're
just
approving.
now, it's just now paperwork through the county at this point, I believe.
Okay. Sounds like a win. We'll follow up on that. Any updates on the progress of the easement for 108 East St. Louis? That's that 10-foot easement.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what you guys are discussing tonight, but that's why I'm here, because I saw it was on the agenda, so.
We're just
So-
trying to see what progress has been made in terms of getting that easement, because there are a number of steps that have to be that we have to go through with.
So I'll be frank, I just had an offer in last week and then got a counter offer that I accepted today. So technically I am under contract, but I have some contingencies that are based upon the city allowing me to do what I would like to do with the property, which also includes the easement with the parking and everything.
Right. So I
So
would suggest getting together with our city attorney as to what we
Yeah.
need to do
like
for
I
the
said,
city.
literally today at 4 o'clock is when it
Ah,
went through, so
that's fresh information.
yeah. Fresh as it can be.
Okay. So, talk to our city attorney. You've got his, I think he gave you.
He
a
gave us a
card.
card.
Yeah. Yeah, let him, he'll keep you going on the steps. Cause he'll eventually have to do another ordinance with us. To do the change, to do that officially. We've approved it, but it isn't official until we do an ordinance, and that can't happen till we get all these other steps taken care of.
Right, but like somebody that was gonna be in the property, I felt like was gonna have to be the one that dealt with it. But I don't know exactly, until I get to where I'm at now, then
Okay, sounds good, appreciate it, thank you. Okay. Any progress on the TIF project? That would be Luann also.
No, that's me, I know
That's
something.
you, okay.
Yeah, I just have a little note written down here that says, following approval of TIF 2 agreement, Moran Group will put together a schedule. And they need to discuss the annexation prior of these properties in kind of orange-ish here. Before they can start the TIF process.
Annexation?
Yeah.
They're not in the city?
No, these ones that are on here are not in the.
Oh, no, that's right, they're not in the city.
No.
We have to annex them first. I thought the Martin Brower was in the city. No, it's not. Okay, I'm surprised that we didn't do it when we annexed the other property just south of Route 50, down close to 4.
That's because they had the TIF 1 and they want this TIF 2, everything has to be contiguous, whatever and stuff, so that these properties kind of fall outside that. And some of these properties, like this one small property, I know this lady lives in New York City on Park Avenue. So she may not want to get rid of her 2 acres. So we may have to, what's that word, 2 words, eminent domain?
Eminent domain.
For 2 acres,
That's a nasty word, eminent domain,
I know,
but sometimes it has to be done.
that's all I got.
Okay, thank you for that update. The zoning map, any update on the zoning map?
The zoning map has been signed and, I signed off on it and then Luann sent it to the zoning people,
Okay,
the person, not the company.
to the county, yeah. Okay, that's everything on the agenda. Is there any other unfinished business?
I got a question.
Sure.
The gentleman and his wife that came to the city about a month ago, and he was putting in a bid down here, with, tattoos and whatnot. Did we ever hear anything back from that?
Oh, the 618 Inc. The,
Yeah, mhm.
The what?
The 618 Inc.
Okay,
That's the name of the company, the business.
okay. Do we know whether it's going forward or not?
you guys went forward, you voted for it to allow it, they have to purchase the property. They were down there the other day going through it. I didn't get a report back on. what they
Okay,
did or
I was
didn't
just
find.
curious if he's moving along, so,
As far as I know,
all right.
That's usually not something that we get involved with until they're there.
permits and such.
They have to come up and get their permits. Once they get their permits, that's when we know it's
Well,
happening.
Yeah, well, when I didn't hear anything, so I was just asked. So what about the folks down at Swan?
Creekside,
Creekside, well, we're working on that too. That's,
working on that.
we approved the sewers and the fact that we're gonna pay for part of the sewer line.
I was gonna ask that too, you know? If we're gonna take care of that, is there a way that we?
That is on hold right now. I have not went forward with the engineers because there was concern about whether they would want to wait 6 months for the city to put in a main. So that is on hold until the mayor and I get word back from Creekside. They spoke with someone about putting private sewer in last Tuesday. And I'm still waiting for word back with them for which way they want to move forward. It doesn't make any sense for the city to put money towards engineering if they aren't willing to wait the months for it to get there. So right now it is on hold.
That's good.
The business is still a go.
Yes.
The sewer
The sewer is
installation is,
whether it's going to be their private lateral or whether it's going to be a city main that's on hold right now.
And I was just curious, we're going to do all of this work for them, right?
no, it's
The
on,
sewers?
It's on hold.
it's on.
No, I know, but we're thinking about doing that. And what I was thinking about is that if we're going to actually do that, okay, maybe we ought to have something that, some kind of a, whatever, to get, I think that if the city's gonna put up the money and everything, and these people are, making a living and everything else, why can't we say something like, well, after your first 6 months in business, we would like to have you repay the city for the,
It's on hold until Penny and I talk. It
Yeah, I
doesn't
know.
matter.
I know, but I
mean,
just wanna
You
throw it out
guys have
there.
already approved doing the engineering for the sewer. That's the only thing that we've asked for. That's the only thing that's done.
Okay, well,
Survey work.
I'm just throwing out there,
Engineering. They approved survey
That's
work.
in your, yeah,
Survey work.
right, correct. Penny was right.
I was just throwing it out there,
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay?
I thought I was gonna have an answer before tonight's meeting, but I did not get that. I don't know if you had any conversation with them, so we will talk further about that.
Can you talk about, Bill's Do you?
Talk about Bill, that's nice.
When,
I didn't hear the final
Okay.
because I followed,
I know,
Washington,
I
but
know, but
in, I can give
from
my,
your perspective,
yeah, in the past, I have not been a fan of deduct meters because of their ability to be tampered with. And this meter to me I don't see anything that makes it tamper proof. I would have to talk to Midwest about that. However, I read these ordinances, they seem very well written. In the past, I've always suggested that we do a one-time summer deduct. And that has never moved forward through the council, nor has this. So I can bring forward what that one-time summer deduct is. It is just basically, you would come up, we'd have a piece of paper, sign up the same way as you would do for this meter. And then whatever usage is between, let's say, May and September, you would do the same thing. You take a meter reading at the beginning, meter reading at the end, and you would get a deduct. That is the same way. It puts a lot of the responsibility back on the homeowner to come up and apply for it or to get a reading. However, I could see where this is a more accurate amount of water that we would be deducting. So as long as we can make sure it's not in some way that this cannot be tampered with. I did talk to Muscuda this week, substantial time with their billing people and asked them if they had problems with tampering issues. They were very minimal. They have had a few, but they are very minimal. So I don't see a reason to not look into one or both ways. We do already give deducts for leaks that are proven not to go down the sewer. So over the winter, we had several people's lines break. They were, when they were repaired, I usually have the plumber talk to me and say, this is where I repaired. I look there, make sure that the water didn't go down the sewer, and then we make an adjustment to the sewer bills. So I don't know. I mean, I read most all of this. I didn't see a place where we would still be allowing that because this says it is a one-time deduct over the summer. The other concern with our people who do our billing was, if that deduction is wanted all on one, like one account. So normally when we make a deduction for the sewer, it's off of that big bill. We're doing it right at the time of the big bill. So there's always enough sewer charge there to remove that deduct. So it makes it pretty easy to deduct that amount from the sewer. Where at the end of the summer or in October, most of the time the usage is going to be back down. And people, if they're keeping current with their bill, which is also what it says in here, that the only way you can get the deduct is to be current, is that it would be more of, how to say that?
A big headed one.
Well, it's just, you can't deduct something that there's not enough to deduct there, so it would make like a credit on the sewer. And the sewer and the water is billed separately, and those accounts are kept separately. So I would want to check into that a little bit too, but those were my only concerns with it when I read all of this. Oh, I have one more. And that was, you mentioned, after this first year, you could see what, revenue change might need to be made. But then that revenue change ends up going back to all of the people. Their price getting raised goes to everyone, where not only to the people who wanted this deduct meter. So I thought that was a little bit of a concern also when you said that.
But it's being distributed equally based on usage.
I
So Some
understand.
people are paying little, people are paying a lot, and we're talking a few dollars here, but yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does get distributed equally. Some people might see a minor increase or a decrease. in
but
their
you
bill.
have
Yeah, that's true.
a high
Yeah, you're right.
portion of town that's on a fixed income, and
Sure.
I mean, their bills raise $1. They're in here complaining that
Sure.
the usage went up, so.
Yeah.
I just wanted that to be out there as well, that could be a concern,
okay,
and I'm done.
I have a correction. Martin Brower is in the city limits. I think so too.
So do I.
It was,
I don't think.
it was, sent to me from afar saying, yes, it's in the city limits.
I thought it was, this.
Because I was sitting there trying to figure out, well, I know it's Creekside's in the
Yeah,
city limits, how is it?
That area on there, I don't know if that's, is that actually where Martin Brower is? I was trying to see your map there to see if that was,
Martin Brower has a big building. The pyramid is in the city already.
yeah, that.
Yes, the big area is north of Route 50.
Right,
Yeah.
That's the area.
It's just south, out of the Cedar Ridge down there.
yeah, I think so.
And see, there's already some city going around the corner there is a city easement, so we're good to go. We're state easement. At the intersection of Belleville Street and 50. Okay,
One last thing, off that subject, we're done with it. Have we made any progress as far as Miss Valley had made an appeal last time we were in the meeting here about a driveway? Are we working on that or anything?
I've not heard anything. Has anybody else heard anything?
What was that again, Charles?
Miss Nelly made an appeal to the council last week. Have we made any progress or anything toward her driveway or resolution? What are we doing here?
I don't know if Cody knows anything about it. Do you know anything, Sharon?
I thought we advanced it to the council. For him to look at something, because she made an appeal about not wanting to spend X amount of dollars for council. And asked would the city do something.
So we resolved that the attorney had made a comment or a final saying that this was our stand and the attorneys were to get together, so I don't know where it went. But we did not say that we were gonna do anything, we were leaving with the attorneys to make that.
Work it out.
Whatever, to work it out, yes.
Mhm. Okay,
I have just, I got out of order, have a TIF question, just a comment. We're talking about the TIF. I've been involved in a few TIF developments, and one of the things that we always encourage is that when the cities work on their TIFs, communication isn't what it used to be. So any property owners that are on the edges of those TIFs that are not not actually in the map that Moran is building, that they be contacted, because having your property placed in a TIF significantly changes the potential value of your property. So farmers, commercial property, things like that, who might be on the edges, who now are not in the city because of annexation, those kind of things. It's a great incentive to go through the annexation process, the additional expense of doing that, to be included into a TIF. So the summary of that is I hope we're reaching out to people that are on the edges of the TIF and giving them the opportunity to say, hey, we're doing this. You're not in the town now. Here's a good opportunity for you to come within the city limits, because you could be included in the TIF. Therefore, it would increase your property value if you're thinking about selling it sometime in the next 2, 5, or 10 years. These things don't come around very often. And the opportunity to get included in this is important for landowners. So I hope we're reaching out to the people on the edges so they know what's happening.
I think the company that's doing the TIF for us is doing something like that.
Moran will not do that if you don't tell them to. Moran will not reach out directly to the owners. The city.
We
will
are
have to reach
working
out.
on that. I just got we are working on that, so.
I
what you're
know the
saying-
people in Moran, and that's not in their scope of work typically.
We have.
To reach
yeah.
out to the individual owner and let them know that there's an opportunity to be annexed in, so. So anyway,
Yeah,
just
that one
throwing
we
that
are
out there.
working on.
I think our lawyer is writing letters to these people, I think it's 6 properties, one of the things, to try to persuade them, I guess, to get, to be included in the TIF.
Yeah, I'm not talking about people who we're trying to include, I'm talking about reaching out to the people who are not currently in the map. They may want to come in as well, and they typically are not contacted because Moran will only work through the list of names you give them that are in the map. But if that's, for example, if I own the piece of land that's right next to what you're doing, and no one ever reached out to me and said, hey, we're doing a TIF, here's an opportunity. You might want to come in the city limits because this is going to have a dramatic impact on the future value of your property. I would want to know that, and I would want someone to reach out to me and have that opportunity to be included in it And Moran will not be doing that because they're only gonna work on the list of names you're currently giving them. So it's usually more of a personal reach out to those landowners, not a lot of them, but it takes a personal reach out to those landowners and say, hey, we're doing this. You might wanna jump in now, because it could be 10 years or 20 years before another TIF is developed, so.
This one doesn't have a lot around it.
Okay,
Or
just-
included, but
Yeah, just throwing it out there, so we've had to deal with it in the past, and it can easily be headed off by a couple phone calls. So.
Okay.
All right, any new business? There being no new business, therefore no other business on the agenda. The meeting is adjourned by default. We're adjourned. Go home.
That's what we're gonna be discussing with you. And committee about this.
Good.
Thought that